Welcome in, everybody. A little technical difficulties to start off with. This is Ashman's Basic Podcast. So I went back to a basic microphone. And today we're going to be talking about art, skill versus talent. So, which one's more important? Is one more important than the other? Let's find out. What do you think, Eve? One answer.
Want to answer? We have a whole half hour to fill.
I know. Give me one or the other. Which one do you want? What do you think it takes?
um,
Yes, 42, Severed. Good answer.
Good job, Severed. I don't know. Creativity versus skill is I would have to. I'm leaning more towards the creativity side.
Okay.
Would be more of art than skill.
Okay. Yeah, I think it takes both. But you do have people like Grandma Moses or folk art painters or people like that do have a lot of heart put into their work. So there's a lot of beauty that comes out of that. So you're right. I mean, sometimes skill isn't as important. And skill's kind of interesting because I was just talking about the old masters, and the thing about it is, it goes down to the patronage too, like who's paying you to do the work. So you can have a lot of
Mhm.
skill and not have your heart in it.
Right,
So it can have a lot of talent to it, but if it's just kind of there, it's just kind of there, right?
right. Like I don't know, because what is fine art, right? That's what we're teetering on here, figuring out
Hmm.
what exactly would you classify as fine art. And if you look it up, it's basically you put on the wall, it evokes feeling, you like it, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. But
Yeah.
some people can look at these projects that are very skillful and that evokes emotion in them. And then you can have other projects that take hardly any skill at all, and that would evoke emotion. So I'm not really sure which one outweighs the other.
Well, I think a lot of people 20, 30 years ago would have told you illustrators aren't fine art. And I would argue that's bullshit because I'd rather have a Frank Vazetta on my wall than I would the Mona Lisa. I think there's something about his work that speaks to me, and I find that to be fine art. I think it's beautiful. The Mona Lisa is well done. It's amazing in
Mm,
its own right, but it doesn't like speak to me. And I think that's the difference between fine art and non-fine art is does it speak to you? And you're going to find it speaks to different people, right?
right. Well, like you just said, the patronage, right?
Mm,
Who's looking at it?
yeah.
And like I've seen people that they're like that. The photorealism art
Hmm.
is amazing. Like you just
Technically
can't help but
amazing.
go,
Yeah.
wow, when you look at it. But is that is that like just copying, even though it's amazing?
Yeah, I know
You
what you
know what I
mean.
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because people can, and I was talking earlier. I was like, does it come down to like process, right? Are they
Yeah.
taking pixel by pixel by pixel and recreating each pixel so you get the whole image? Or is there some nuances in there of where the artist hand and eye and touch have to make changes and put their own self into it?
Yeah. And we've seen
So I think
photorealism.
that's like the big difference between the two.
Yeah, we've seen photorealism where it looks like it's the same thing. You can find 20 artists that look the same. And then you can find some photorealism where you're like, oh, there's something
Hmm.
more to this. There's something the artist put into it. And yeah, so there is photorealism, and then there's the art of the artist that comes out in the photorealism. And there's always some signature feel to it, right? compared to like same as it ever was. When you see a bunch of them all together, they kind of fit into that pile, and then you
Right.
have the guy that
Right.
stands
Is
out.
it Xerox or is it creativity?
Yeah,
Yeah. Is
exactly.
it Xerox or is it creativity?
Yeah,
Is it Xerox art? Is there such a thing? Can we coin a term?
yeah.
Xerox art?
Well, I think Xerox already coined its own
Because,
copyright on that.
oh, okay, fine. Fine. Be that way.
Gonna get attacked by them. They're
I don't
gonna
know
sue you.
because it takes so much. Yes, here we go, right? It takes so much skill for people to do portraiture. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? To get a portrait to look exactly like the person. Now, if they start using things like projectors or tracing or copying or like and then they make it into their own portrait like is the art part getting lost or is it still a part of the piece?
Oh, it's still a part of the piece. As somebody who's used projectors, and I'm not gonna lie about that, I I I have to put more
Hmm.
into it because you have to know the anatomy because the projector isn't going to project everything. You have to figure out what's what in there. So it takes skill to be able to project. So like when somebody doesn't have skill and they project and then they try and just work it, it looks like it was traced. Whereas like somebody that's been in art for a long time and they have skill and ability, they can make that look right. And sometimes I don't want to make it look right. And that's another artistic thing to put into the piece. You want it to look different.
Yeah, like you could just like your head can just start spinning on this one because there's so many different little nuances like and 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 take it the other direction, right? We're talking about skill versus creativity or versus talent or the artist eye, the artist touch.
Hmm.
um what about like the modern art? What about the artist that has the red circle on the blank canvas and a really good story?
Oh,
Is that
conceptual. Conceptual.
art?
Yeah.
Because yes, it is. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You have artists like Rothko.
conceptual art and modern art or any of those.
Yeah, you have artists like Rothko or something like that that paint layers of paint and it's just kind of blocky forms of paint, but the paint shows through. There's something aesthetically pleasing about it. Um, but is it
Right.
art because somebody's looking at it and they it gives them an emotion, it gives them a feeling. So it still depends on the viewer, right? There are some people that absolutely can't stand Picasso, but to say he doesn't have talent is ridiculous because if you look at his earlier periods, they were amazing. So he has talent and skill and understanding of the
Hmm.
world around him within art. And then he went and worked with Cubism. It's a very different style and it's beautiful, but it
Right.
takes a certain viewer to like and appreciate that.
Yeah, because which is funny because I have a lesson of to how to paint a Picasso selfie.
Okay.
So it's painting yourself but a cubism type style and um my sister saw mine the other day and she's like that thing's ugly. you know but somebody else looks at it and they're like that thing's cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it like again we're back to the viewer, right?
Yeah.
And
There's a
I guess you can't talk about what is art without talking about the viewer because that's who the art is for.
yes. There's a piece right up here. I call him Crazy Larry. He was at Goodwill. Nobody wanted him. He'd been there for a month. Nobody picked him up. There was something about him that I liked, and it disturbs a lot of other people. And it was something that just I went, I love that guy. He looks so insane. I just love it. So now he's hanging on my wall, and most people won't want it. You know, it's there was something about it that I enjoyed, that
Right.
I was attracted to in that piece, is the insanity, and maybe it's because I'm slightly off.
No.
No, not me.
Really?
No. Yeah.
And Sever brings up a good point in the chat. It evoked a reaction,
Yeah.
like, because a lot of times people think of art and they want it to be pleasing and aesthetically, fits their mold, and they get like a feeling of joy and a feeling of happiness from viewing it. But then there's the other side of art that evokes other emotions.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not always rainbows and puppies, and like there's,
I get that from
well,
my art when
you
I put it on
illustrate
TikTok.
yourself, you
Yeah.
illustrate certain, like,
Oh yeah. I get reactions all the time.
so like some people would say that's not art.
Yeah, that's true. It's, I think if it irritates somebody, it's art, right?
I don't know. Right. But then what else falls, like, I don't know, like, because again, I think it has to do with the process. It has to do with the artists themselves. And like you said, you used a projector, but you've had to put your own self into the work.
Yeah.
But you've also seen it where they used a projector and they didn't put themselves into the work.
No.
So is that still art though? Bad
I
art.
I think I I think it's up to the viewer to decide, because there's somebody out there that will love that piece that doesn't have that artistic eye, but they have that connection to it. You know what I mean? There are people that love that style of art, almost stagnant, almost like, there are people that are like, I really like that. So for me, it has to have something to it, some emotion to it, some feeling to it. And like you were saying earlier, it could be disgust,
Mhm.
it could be it could be anger, whatever it is. If it's giving me an emotion, I feel like that's a good piece of art. If I walk by it and kind of go, whatever, which, we've all seen that, it's kind of, is it art? I don't know. Is it art or is it design?
I don't
There's a
know.
difference
That's the
between art
question
and
of the
design.
evening.
Yeah.
True. But they do classify architecture as being art,
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Art
but
is a,
it
a
needs to have
umbrella
design.
term. Yeah, it's an umbrella term. And there's industrial design, but
Hmm.
when does industrial design become art? And do artists incorporate industrial design into their art? I think they do.
Well, I think, well, the first name that comes to my mind is MC Escher
Yeah.
and his work with design, and because he was an engineer
Mm-hmm.
and
Very
he created
mathematical.
these masterful pieces. Yes, extremely mathematical. That's probably why I like him.
Yep.
But he also had the creativity side, the stairwells and the hands drawing the hands, and like it wasn't all mechanical, it wasn't
No.
all design, it
It's
was a
interesting
combination of the two.
because you brought MC Escher up, and he creates works that are impossible, like the staircases that go into each other, and they don't go the right way. If it was in the physical world, it wouldn't make any sense. You couldn't use it. But because of his mathematics and his ability
Right.
to figure that stuff out as an engineer, he could make the optical illusion of it being there. So it's really interesting. His work's pretty amazing.
Yes. And so with him and the having the mixture of design and the creativity and the illusion that he's able to portray, I call his piece as art.
Oh yeah.
Now, if somebody just threw a staircase,
Yeah.
like, that is mathematically correct and would make a great staircase,
Oh yeah. But then
does that fall
there's
under
somebody
art or
like
design?
Andrew Wyeth who could do that. and create an
Mm-hmm.
emotion out of it, which is weird because it's just a staircase with maybe something hanging next to it. And all of a sudden that gives you the sad feeling like a glove or something like that. And he gets the mood lighting just right,
Mm-hmm.
and he
Mm-hmm.
gets the shadow casting just right. Suddenly a staircase becomes emotional. Whereas somebody else, I'm going to draw a staircase, it could just be flat and boring. So there's skill and there's heart involved.
But the flat and boring one, is it art or is it design?
It's all in the eye of the beholder, I think, because somebody out there
Yeah.
would be like, I love that. It has no soul. I love it. It's just like me, soulless.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up another type of art that always has a very bipolar viewpoint. The people that do the paint pours,
Okay.
right? So is that just a skill, right? Being able to combine these paints and these chemicals so it produces a certain reaction on the canvas?
Hmm.
Or does that take creativity and fall under art because they're manipulating it in ways to have these different things come about?
Yeah.
Like I've seen people that do the paint pours and they just put it all in the cup, put it on the thing, and they're like, "Oh wow, look at all that! That looks amazing." And then I've seen other people that are like, "Oh, I want to swirl this piece, I want to swirl that piece, I want to adjust it this way." So that the second person I would view more as an artist than the first person, but they're
Okay.
both creating
Okay. I'm gonna
art,
give you. I'm gonna
aren't
make a.
they?
Yeah. I'm gonna make a point though. When you see somebody at one of your paint sips and they're just smashing paint onto
Mm-hmm.
the canvas and they think they're creating art,
Yes,
are they creating art?
yes. They're, it depends who's looking at it.
Exactly. Exactly. I think paint and pour is the same way. Um, I think there are some out there that actually have a skill and an ability because they understand color theory, they understand all this stuff, but they can get an emotion out of it if they really work at their craft. And then there are the people that just kind of go, "Whoa, that looks cool," just like a tie dye shirt, And are you going to be like tie dye art
Right.
is art, you know? I'm sure there's a collector out there that just hates me right now going, I collect tie dye, bro. It's art.
Well, tie dye is not, see the tie dye though is another medium that if you fold it a certain way, band it a certain way, and do all these manipulations to the cloth itself before you put the dye into it, it creates different imagery. So again, you're talking about somebody that has this skill and puts creativity into their work, and then you have other people that just dunk it in and let's see what happens.
Sounds
So
sounds like my 20s. I just dunked it in and see what happened.
does one get I thought of Maury Povich just now. You are the father.
Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't get a call. No, free from calls for Maury Povich so far. So far. Haven't gotten that
Yeah,
knock at the door yet.
I don't know if that was, yeah, I don't know. So is that skill or creativity when you dunk it in?
A little bit of A, a little bit of B.
Well, if you're not that skillful, maybe you have to get creative.
There you go.
But the same could be said for artists because there's
Yes.
artists out there that aren't very skillful,
Yeah, that's true.
but they're very creative.
They're very creative. And I think the creativity shines through. And it's kind of what I was alluding to earlier with folk art and found art. If anybody doesn't know what found art, it's when you find everyday objects and you manipulate them a certain way, and make art out of it. A very famous one is from the Dadaists. There was a toilet that said "mutt" on the side, and turned it into something and called it Fountain. So he took a he took a urinal basically and titled it Fountain and made it a different
Right.
idea of what it is. And is that art? Found objects.
Right. Yeah, I just saw a video on that actually, for Castle Galleries, and they do Johnny Depp's art, and he's manipulating boxes and containers, and deconstructing them, and then taking those pieces and making art out of
Yeah,
them. So, but again, eye of the beholder, because somebody would look at that and be like, "That's a tea box,"
exactly. Exactly.
and somebody else would look at it and be like, wow, that's really like to create that out of an everyday object.
Yeah. British
Like, I
people
don't
would
know
be
if I would go
frothing
for the
at the
toilet
at the mouth
art.
for the for the tea box. I say that's tea there. That's all.
Mhm.
But you're right.
And
Like boxes
I've
like
been in
that. Yeah.
museums where I've seen pieces. Yeah, I've seen pieces, and I'm just looking at them like that looks like a third grader did a craft project.
Oh yeah.
If
Yeah.
we bring up abstract,
Yeah.
abstract's a big one,
Yeah. There's a lot of
where
people that
there's
don't
that
like it.
dichotomy: is it art, is it not?
Yeah. And I'm going to say
Or
it's
you
it's a
get, I
lot of
can do
skill.
that.
It's oh man, you know what? I've proven to somebody that they can't. Somebody was like, "Oh, that looks real easy. Let me do it." And I was like, "Oh, go ahead. I'll show you a couple steps on how to do it." And they did a couple things and then it got muddy. Of course it got muddy because you don't know the skills it takes to mix
Mhm,
color. You don't know the skill it takes to arrange the colors on the canvas. So there is skill involved, but there's also
mhm.
emotion. I have very emotional abstracts in my closet because nobody buys them because I'm not known for abstracts. I'm just not known for them. But I could
Right.
do them, and I do put emotion into them. And there are people that have my abstracts. I just don't push those as much. But it's because I have more interest in the other things that I could put more heart and skill into.
Well, and then you've also taken your abstracts and you've put your drawings on them.
Oh
You
yeah,
use them as a backdrop.
yep,
So that's another like way of like, I don't know, boosting it up in somebody's eye. Like if they look at abstract, like, oh, that's not really art. But then all of a sudden you have your drawing on it, then it's putting it into another category
yeah.
for those type of individuals, I would think.
Oh yeah, because you're the abstract to them isn't the art, but the ability to produce a drawing or something tangible to their eye is the art. So if you can mix both worlds in, it becomes very interesting. And I don't know, I've always liked doing the backgrounds abstract and then doing the foreground in like oil. And like the background's usually like an acrylic and then the foreground's oil. And I like the look of it.
Right. And that's another question too, because you do characters, and you illustrate all these different characters, and there was
Mhm.
this one point where you were manipulating certain Muppets into certain ways, and
Oh yeah.
they were very creative.
And
And they
disturbing.
were they were very creative, and some were disturbing, and but what struck me as funny is the one that you wound up selling was one that you hardly got creative with all at all. You
Yeah.
didn't get creative with it. You did like one little thing, and that was the one that somebody's like, that's the one I
That
want.
was the first one that sold.
That
Yeah.
could get frustrating.
It can. And that's the thing. When I create generally the things that I take 5 to 20 minutes to putting into my time, that usually goes first. And the things that I agonize over that take me months or a year or something like that, nobody wants it. And we're doing the art for ourselves at that point, aren't we? And I think that's a big part of it is we are going to create art no matter what. and somebody's going to see the 5 to 10 minute piece that I did and go, wow, I love that, because there's a franticness to it or something, and they
Mhm.
see the emotion in it. Whereas the other stuff, maybe it does become stultered. Maybe it becomes a little boring because it's taken me that long to work on. I'm agonizing over every line or something like that. Maybe it loses its
Right, right.
excitement.
Luster.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing. Like, we're talking about, is it skill or is it creativity? Like, um, and you brought up the paint party patronage, right?
Hmm.
And some, are lack all skill. They're just there to have fun and have a
Yeah.
good time, and they create, they make what they make. And then there's others that turn around and have not as much skill, and but they turn around, they're like, oh, I want to add another tree here, or I want to put, like,
Yeah.
they start creating their own little world on the canvas as they're sitting there. And I think that's just totally awesome that they would turn around and they're there to, like, yeah, I'm instructing how to do a simple painting, but they start putting their own flavor into it. Now, I would classify that person more of an artist, even though it might not that be that good compared to the person next to him that got it to the letter perfect. Everything was in its right spot. They
Yeah.
painted it, but it was flat.
Yeah.
It had no, like, one of the coolest things I one of the coolest things I think that happens when you do one of those big classes is you're instructing everybody with the same instructions. They're all painting the same painting,
Hmm.
but they all come out different.
They're always different.
They all wind up coming out different.
They do. And
I
it's
think
you're
that's so
right.
amazing. Like,
You're right. The one person in the group, it's usually 1 to 2 people in a big group like that that are like, I'm gonna, do you mind if I do this? Deviate from the road, and it's like, it's your world. Go ahead, do it.
mhm,
And and then there are the people that are very stringent, like it's gotta look like yours. And then they're really hard on themselves. It's like, I need to make it look like yours. And I'm like,
yes,
I've been painting for a very long time. It's gonna be hard for you to
mhm,
do that. And then they get very frustrated and angry at
yes,
themselves that they can't. And then you have the people that are just happy to be doing stuff. And they're usually the ones that are going to do okay because they're just happy, they're not taking it so seriously, and they'll put themselves into it.
right. And I always try to get I always do an exercise at the end of all of my classes, especially because usually it's people that have only painted once or twice in their lifetime.
Mm.
And I make them close their eyes. Then I ask for their wallets. No, I do ask
I
for
was
their
going to
wallets, but
ask.
they never give them to me. But I have them close their eyes and I have them take a deep breath. And then I say to them, remind yourself, this is your second painting
Yeah.
ever you have
Yeah.
ever painted. And I've been painting for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, so now you can open your eyes and actually appreciate what you were able to do for where you're at. And
Exactly.
that usually helps some of them still scoff and I'm like, okay, be miserable. I don't know. But but some of them are like,
Yeah.
they actually can like what they did,
Yeah.
considering
That
that
little
they've
light
never
goes
held a
on.
paintbrush.
Yeah, the little light goes on, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't so bad." But yeah, and there are going to be people that
Not
are
so
just
bad.
miserable, and sometimes miserable people make great art. I've seen it. So it's kind of interesting,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They put their misery into their artwork, and you're
Yes.
like, that's really cool. For us, not for
The
them.
brooding, miserable artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
And
brooding, miserable artist.
it's funny. They're kind of like comedians. They make us laugh at everything, or an artist that's making these beautiful paintings, and they're miserable at home. So sometimes you put into the art what you wish for rather than what you really are. So there's that too.
I think a lot to do with falling under the art for me is how much of the artist is in it.
Yeah.
And that's why some pieces for me wind up falling under the category of art, um, and some pieces wind up falling under the category of that's bullshit. Like that's just
One man's trash
I
is
don't know how
another
to
man's
sugarcoat it,
treasure,
but
though.
you've seen those pieces.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But and that's another thing too is sometimes how much of the story makes the art, because we're just talking about visual art today,
I
but
I was
there's
I
so
was at
many
a
different things of art.
I was at a party years ago, and there was another guy standing there just as
Did you
miserable as
dunk
I
it in?
was.
Did you dunk it in at the party?
No, no, it wasn't a key party that I used to go to.
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nobody in the room's like, what's a key party? Anyway, um, there's another gentleman there that was just kind of standing there like this, listening to an artist go on about his work. And we talked about it as being, he said, it's the kind of artwork that they're looking above their head and talking like this. In other words, it's all up here and there's nothing on the canvas. And he's like, "You're not one of those artists, are you?" I was like, "No, no, I'm an illustrator. I do all kinds of illustration and painting and this sort of thing." I said, "I don't delve into the conceptual art." And he's like, "Oh, thank God." So we started talking like that, and it was really interesting to see his side of what art is. And some conceptual art is interesting, but at the same time, I don't think of it as art. I don't know why. I just can't. I think, like you said, there's a big story behind it. But what did you do on the canvas? What did you do on the paper? What did you do? What did you do
Mhm.
outside of think of a story? Might as well be a writer, right?
Right. And that's the thing is because you're saying it evokes emotion, but if you just look at the piece on its own, it's not doing anything. It's not
No.
evoking any like the story evoked emotion.
Yeah.
Now I've seen phenomenal pieces of art and heard the artist's perspective and heard the artist's story behind it, and it's like, wow, that's like layers and layers of awesomeness. But other times I've seen the art, heard the story, re-looked at the art, and was just left like
Scratching your head. Yeah.
lacking. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
something didn't. Yeah, scratching my head like something doesn't connect here.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because, like, sometimes the artist has a totally different idea of what the art is about, and the viewer is going to put something else into it. I have a drawing that went on an album cover called Stranger with Candy. It's an alien holding out a lollipop. Now, the guy who hired me to put that artwork on his cover had a totally different idea of what it was. I said the alien's lonely and he's trying to reach out and make friends. And he was like, no. And he came up with this whole concept. He's like, you're wrong. And I was like, how am I wrong? I created it. But at the same point, I was like, who's right and who's wrong in this situation anyway? Because you put some emotion into it and I put my emotion into it. So both
Mhm.
stories are probably valid,
Right.
you know? So I don't know.
Yes. But it was the piece that evoked the story. It wasn't the story that's evoked, like,
Yeah.
it's not the story evoking the emotion. The piece evoked the emotion to have the stories get created.
Yeah. And he had a strong opinion about it.
Does that
So it
make
evoked
sense?
something. Yeah.
I hope it evoked in a paycheck for you.
it it kind of did. So I'm happy about that.
Okay, all right. As long as it evoked something. So that's the thing. Like, is fine art? Is it skill? Is it creativity? Is it talent? Is it And I'd have to say all of the above to an extent. Like, because if you don't have the creativity in there, I think it's lacking something.
Oh yeah. And
Like
any
even
viewer will
people
see
that
it.
do facsimiles, yeah, even people that do facsimiles of images, you can tell which ones have that artist input
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
drawing or in the piece of art, and some that are just mere copies.
Oh yeah. There's realistic artists on here on this platform, which is TikTok for anybody who's watching it on YouTube. That they do photorealism, but at the same point, there's somebody else that does the photorealism, but they put themselves into it, and I like their work more. Even if the one person made it look more
Right.
like the person they were drawing, the one I like is the one that has the emotion. Even though it might not like quite look like that person, I still love that piece more.
It's funny though too, is because you have people that are, you have an artist that would inspire you, and then you try to recreate their piece, right? Now that should be and only should be a learning tool,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
my
absolutely.
opinion. If you're recreating somebody else's art. And I've had a person that watched my tutorials, painted the painting, and then sold the paintings as their own,
Oh wow, wow.
and considers herself an artist.
Yep, yep. I've had people on here that have asked me permission to recreate my artwork, and I've said yes. Just make sure you tag me in it and say that I inspired it or that it was a design after mine.
Hmm.
So I'm okay with that.
Right.
But somebody totally ripping off my
Yes.
style, which I've had before. I did a painting of Ernest Hemingway knocking back a beer and a picture of the nurse that he was in love with in World War I. And it said something over the top, which I'm not going to say here, because he was responding to a certain poet. And she said, "A rose is a rose is a rose." He said, well, I'll say it. A bitch is a bitch is a bitch, because he was responding to her because she
Right.
really knocked his art his writing. And but like
Right.
I hung that and showed that somewhere, and 3 months later I saw a very bad version of it near a gallery near ASU, and I was like, I walked in, I went, wow, that looks familiar. And the woman who had painted it went, yeah, I came up with the concept and the idea and everything. I said, probably a couple months ago when my show was up. And she went, oh shit. I was like, yeah, that was my work. So yeah, don't steal from people. They might see it. They might see it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And but the thing is like they say there's some sort of like if you change a certain percentage of a piece, then it's not that artist piece anymore. It becomes your own.
Yeah.
And like her skill set wasn't to my skill set. Again, she's learning from the videos I
Yeah.
was making.
Yeah.
So, but people deemed her as an artist, and she deemed herself as an artist.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is now there's those gray areas, right? Like fine art, is it art? Is it not art? There's so many like little nuances that could either like put you all the way in the category, and then other little things that could just kick you right
Kick
out.
you right out. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Well, as I was speaking about earlier with Frank Frazetta or any of the illustrators that do amazing work, um, a lot of people were poo-pooing them back then. You know, they're going, ah, they're not artists; they're just illustrators. And if you look at like N.C. Wyeth, Frank Frazetta, Boris Villaggio, um, these people are
mhm.
amazing. They're fantastic
Hildebrandt.
artists. Hildebrandt, yeah, they're just they're just fantastic,
Yep.
and you can't deny their ability, right?
And remember, who was it? Oh, I can't remember the name. But remember, I had the collector's cards and we were looking at them, and it was, oh, that looks a lot like Frank Franzet. I can never
Frank
say his name
Frazetta.
correctly.
That's okay. That's okay.
Fazetta, thank you. I keep putting R's in there for some reason.
Frank
And extra Z's. I don't know why.
Frazetta.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and we were saying it looks, yeah, but then as we read the bio of the actual artist, it was his tutelage, that
Yeah.
he was his teacher.
Yep.
So that's why the styles looked so
Yeah.
identical.
Yeah. And the person learned, and they did have their own flair to it, but you could see the DNA of the person he learned from, which was Frank Frazetta. But he did have a new style to it too,
Like,
so it wasn't like a copy. There was some element of the
right.
artist in there. So that's what we
Mhm.
should aspire for, right? Not to copy, but to put
Yes.
ourselves into our artwork.
But that could be the argument of anyone of doing a forgery. They could be like, well, I put myself into the piece and, like, oh, I saw the concept, but then I made it my own creation with
That's
doing this and doing that to it. And
that sounds like Metallica. I'm just gonna rip this song off, call it my own. I put myself into it, man. Those are our songs. Like, all right, all right. Don't sue me, Lars. You know it's right.
so there's right. Oh goodness. So there's the part of copying that is when you're learning from a certain artist, or like you said, learning from the masters, and you're trying to recreate what they were able to achieve. But then when you turn around and sell it and say it's your own work, guess
Yeah,
what? You're not an artist.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. It was like I used to copy Gustav Klimt
You're a forger.
to
Forger.
figure out how he did stuff. Gustav Klimt is an amazing artist.
Hmm.
I would take,
The
and I
Kiss.
didn't, yeah, the Kiss. I would never take his paintings and copy them. I would look at his I would study his sketches, because that's the skeletal work of his art. And he had amazing sketches. So
Hmm.
I would redo those sketches, and I had people going, "I'll buy that. I'll buy that." I'm like, "I'll give it to you. I'm not going to sell this because this isn't my work. These are just studies." And I made sure to sign it with my
Right.
own name and say Gustav Klemps by me.
Hmm.
That way there was no, what's going on there. Because, not that anybody would
Right.
be like,
Right.
"Oh,
I
those are
always try to
Gustav
put
Klimt."
the
Yeah.
inspired by.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always try to put the inspired by part into that, and I tell others, because I have been asked, like, oh, I painted from your tutorial, I have these paintings now, is it proper to sell them or not sell them? And I would say, as long as you put inspired by and my name on the back of it somewhere, then you
Right.
do what you will with your creation,
Yeah. It's not a
because
lot to ask, right?
you did paint it.
Yeah.
We went from, is it art, to, are you stealing from me?
Yes. I have a list of grievances of all the artists who've ripped me off.
Yes.
Oh
If you're
boy.
stealing it, it's not art.
No. No. That's true.
That's called a collaboration. Jin asked, is Ash painting over an Eve painting, and is that even art? What that
Yeah,
would
it's a
be is
collab.
called a collaboration. So
Yeah.
if you have, yeah, if you have more
Hey,
than one artist working on a piece together, then all of the artists are credited for it.
for everybody on the tubes, Gin actually creates guitars, and some of us paint on those guitars. So, Gin, am I ripping you off by painting on your guitar, or are you ripping me off by painting on your guitar? Or is it a collaboration, buddy? I think it's a collaboration, right?
And what about the people that make like the crafters?
Okay.
You ever see people that do like the crafting, and they'll make like a wreath with pretties on it, or like, they'll decoupage, or oh, that's another thing too, like with the decoupage, digital art,
Okay.
right? I have grievances with digital art.
I do not.
First grievance was I saw an artist, quote unquote, and he took other people's photographs and manipulated them within programs of the digital art and he was calling it his art.
Oh, okay.
I don't, yes, I
But
don't think
that's
that
not
was
all digital
proper.
art.
If he was
That's
using his, yeah, if he was using his own, well, the digital art caused him able to be able to do that because he plugged it into a program to do it. So
yeah,
that's why I put it in that category.
yeah.
If it
Because
was his own photographs, that would have been a different story.
it's interesting you say that because I've seen collages that create different stories. When you take collages from like old magazines, like pictures of old magazines and stuff, and make a whole different kind of universe on this piece, and it evokes an emotion, it evokes all kinds of stuff. Um, is that art?
I don't know. Or as Severed's bringing up, is it art or is it decor?
Oh, I think crafting.
Is it just
There's a
something that
fine
looks
line.
nice in your house?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I've always thought of some crafting as not being art, but am I being snobbish? You know, because some people think everything's art. I don't fall under that category. I don't feel that. I think there's a lot of things you can conceive as art, but there's a lot of things that I think are what I talked about earlier, design. And I think there's a difference between design and
Mhm.
art at times.
I could agree with that. I could agree with that. But I do love when architecture becomes art.
Oh yeah.
Seeing that one building or the when they have the all the ornamentation on the certain structures, and I
Hmm.
think that some of that is just absolutely amazing. Or even and and even though like some people would be like that's just design, that's just architecture, I don't always agree with that. I think
No.
there's definitely a lot of creativity that goes into those ornamental pieces on
There's
buildings.
there's a building called the Bradbury Building in Los Angeles, and it's stunning. It's stunning inside there. The elevator, everything inside is amazing. It was used for the movie Blade Runner. They filmed in there. And you could see why, because it evoked an emotion. This place has a feel to it. It's beautiful, it's interesting, and it inspired a filmmaker. So, you know, it is cool. And there's Frank Lloyd Wright out here, as Burnham has said. We have Taliesin West out here. It's a magnificent building. It's amazing. I've been in it, and he creates structures
Mhm.
for people. Like the roof, the ceiling isn't very high. It's about as high as you would need, rather than vaulted or anything like that. The furniture is ergonomic. Everything in the
Mhm.
house he created, and it's beautiful. But there's somebody out there that would go, I prefer Rococo. So there's that.
Yeah, there's always somebody out there that likes Crazy Larry and hangs it
Yeah,
on his wall.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what we got out of this today is nowhere because art is in the heart of who's looking at it. And that's okay. We went around in a nice
Right.
circle. We had a nice conversation, and we're back to,
Mhm.
I don't know, what do you
Yes.
think? And that's okay to have conversations like that too,
Right.
because we're not going to solve everything here.
Right.
It's just a little podcast. It's just a little podcast.
It's just a basic show.
It's just a
It's
basic
basic.
show,
It's basic.
right? So with that,
Just a basic.
I'd like to thank everybody for hanging out with us and listening to us. And as always, thank you, Eve, for joining me. Thanks everybody in the chat, and thank you the folks over there at YouTube who are watching this right now. And as always, here we are, trapped in the amber of the moment. There is no why. Take care.